So more bad news for Western passport holders. Terrible news, it's Brazil this time. And the impacted passports are US, Canada, and Australia. So pretty much a significant portion of the West. Brazil, starting October 1st, is terminating access for these passports. Now, this is really tragic because this comes at the backdrop of EU terminating true visa-free. They want Westerners to go online, fill out the ETA or whatever their system is. They will scan the request and then there will be an approval process. It could take up to 14 days for that approval. And Brazil now is requesting actual visas. So no more babies for some people without visa in Brazil. I get a lot of calls and a lot of clients keep talking about, and especially from Australia, US, Canada, particularly these countries, they talk about how they plan a baby in Brazil. They have access, it's an easy trip for them, but not anymore. Starting October 1st, it's all ending. Ironically, if you see some of the other paths, some of the poorest passports, let's say, when I say poor, it's poor in terms of the overall numbers. In reality, they could be more powerful. Let's say the Dominican Republic passports, a lot of Westerners, when they look at that passport, they feel that's trash. They feel it's really the poorest of the poorest. But here, your DR passport is going to have the Brazilian access, and all your Western passports, the US, the best of the best, right? They're not going to have it. So which one is stronger, right? It kind of depends where you're headed. If you're headed to Brazil, if that's important to you, if you feel that's an important country you want access to, then the DR passport is much stronger. Now, what are some of the solutions? What do you do, right? It's exceedingly getting more and more and more difficult. The rest of the world is fed up of all the nonsense. They don't want any wokeism. They don't want any financial troubles from some of these countries, right? Even the citizens, right? Citizenship-based taxation is bothering some people. And the solution really is to have more options, more access. Yes, your Western passport was strong in the past. Is it a piece of trash moving forward? Well, not exactly. I still feel it's a good document, so it makes sense to hang on to it. Now, some people, the whole CBT really bothers them. So in that case, it's an individual choice. No one can force one way or the other. It's, you got to make up the decision. What's more important to you? If the land, the access, and the business in the country is more important than you keep it. If that's not important, then obviously people make their own choices. But moving forward, I think having access and combination, different residencies which lead to citizenships, just the way the world is progressing, it's getting more restrictive. Rather than having more access, more mobility, more global freedom, travel freedom, and all of that kind of thing, countries are now closely scrutinizing, right? The thing with Brazil is that, hey, if you don't provide our citizens, we are a great country. Your guys want to come to this country, and if we aren't keeping any visa free to your country, then we are going to terminate your access. And if all the countries slowly start taking that stance, especially if you really want to fuel the war, and if you're really creating chaos, then other countries realize that, right? Then they go on the other side, they build stronger relationships on the other side. Other groups start forming, people start watching what you're doing, and they start disrespecting you heavily. So that is where, while all of this happening and you can't change this, what you can do is look at other residencies, diversified residencies. So those are going to give you access to the other part of the world. Gone are the days when your passport was the leader, the strongest passport. It's getting one of the poorest passports because you're losing access to some of the most valuable regions of the world. So I think to talk next steps here, or to talk about the approach over here, I think it's very important to have an EU passport. You want to have access directly to the region. So even if whatever they terminate, you always have entry into that region. You want a good, solid Western access, which you're not going to lose. Let's just take an example. You have a Canadian passport. You're never going to lose access to the US. You're not going to lose access to Mexico. So you're going to have coverage there. So you want, and Canada is just one example. You want a solid citizenship in North Americas, whichever you can get. Mexico is one of my favorite options. I feel Mexico could be stronger than Canada or US. If you consider the whole taxation, the passport strength, Mexico gives you Canada. A lot of people don't want to go to the US. So if they can go to Canada, they're happy in that sense. The Mexican passport is pretty good. Canadian passport is also good. I think it comes second next to Mexico. So if someone wanted to start a new residency, I would always say Mexico makes a lot more sense because taxation is a big thing, right? You got to spend those months, and you got to spend years in Canada. You're paying taxes over there. If your eventual goal is to exit their system, good luck to you. So you got to take all of those things into perspective. So that's one area. I think you want to have a good Middle Eastern access because that gives you further access to different interesting areas. Some of the hot Middle Eastern options here are Turkey, Jordan, Egypt. Those are the straight CBI passports. But there are some other interesting options, interesting countries which have different pathways. Again, they're not advertised. No one earns money off of them, so no one really talks about it. But this is part of your strategy. You got to keep in mind. Asia, unfortunately, you only have pretty much one country, which is Cambodia, which you can outright purchase. But there are some hacks to Asian citizenship. So let's say you want to have a South Korean citizenship, then there is a way to keep dual citizenship with South Korea. So that's an option. So that way you want to have passports from every continent. At least 5 is the bare minimum. 5 solid, strong passports. 1 in the Latin Americas, 1 in North Americas, 1 in the Middle East, or you want 1 in the European region. So those are the bare minimum that you should be looking for. So once you have a strong portfolio of passports, you aren't worried about different governments, the whole taxation situation. There's also Mauritius, which is pretty interesting part of the world, very interesting passport. South Africa is climbing up the ladder, so you definitely want a couple of citizenships from the BRICS bloc. It's getting stronger. There are a lot of advantages over there. So with all these options, it's not just about the access. And the other important thing is you absolutely want to stay away from any of the violated options, 4 or 5 options which are completely busted by Western governments. Don't waste your time, don't waste your money. It's good for some people, not for everyone. So in that sense, it's not a complete trash, it's not a piece of trash. It does have some benefits, right? The numbers, right? You're very, very savvy, you're a hobbyist, or you are an enthusiast of collecting passports, then that's an option, cheap option, right? In case you want to get started with any of the residencies that lead to citizenship, you can always click the link in the description, book a call with us. We can discuss exactly what you're looking for, get you started with the option of your choice. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to turn on the bell notification and subscribe, because I keep breaking news as it happens. Access revocations, new programs, new residencies, and a lot of analysis and a lot of information which will be useful for you. So be the first one to get notified. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, make sure you're subbed, and catch you in the next one.